Alright, so I play a lot of New Vegas, and just like with all the Nuzlocke stuff, I wanted to make tier list type guide stuff, right? Because I really like watching people talk about stuff that they're into. A little peek behind the curtain. That's why I watch YouTube so much, right? Because I like hearing people talk about stuff they like. And the biggest thing that interests me is starting guides. Because I like to see how everyone. Okay, I gotta turn that down one more. I like to see how everyone thinks the better starting guide is, what the better builds are, what you should always do, right? So I've got a map of New Vegas pulled up, and I did some cheat sheets. I literally have pre-made builds. I'm going to show you, and we're going to go over it. This is going to be more long paced, right? It's not going to be a little 5-minute edited video. Um, but yeah, we're going to go over the builds. We're going to go over traits, what you should and shouldn't pick. We're going to go over all the perks, how many points you should invest per level to get certain perks, what perks are essential, things like that, different types of weapon builds, what builds are the best, and then after that we can go over what mods I recommend, because mods are always a big point for an old game like this that has a big modding community. You're going to be very shocked, but I don't play with very many mods, so this will be a borderline vanilla experience. But let's get into it. Ranged builds are by far much more powerful in Fallout New Vegas. And you'll see it here. The special build, this is a generalized build. This is not a very specialized build. And it's because in general you should be trying to... this is more for like a beginner who doesn't really know what to do and thinks that building a character seems arbitrary and random. Just know that as long as you don't dump intelligence or endurance, you can pretty much do whatever and still get through the game, like, pretty easily. If there was a way to have all your special stats at 1, you could still make it through the game just fine, It wouldn't be easy, but the game is designed in that kind of way. So the specials we've got are Endurance of 7. This gets you all the implants but Charisma, and it gets you the subdermal armor. At the New Vegas Medical Clinic, which is this little building, you'll run into Doc Usanagi. Doc Usanagi sells you 9 implants, 7 for the 7 special stats, and then a subdermal armor that increases your damage threshold by 8, which essentially is a math. If you get hit with a bullet that does 10 damage, you have a DT of 8, it's supposed to go down to 2. There's some funky stuff that the damage threshold can't be lower than 20%, something like that, of the original damage, but in that case it would end up just being 2, right? And then Monocyte Breeder, which is like a really lame, weak regenerator perk that doesn't really work. So 7 endurance is plenty. If you want to go down to 3 charisma and get 8 so you can get everything but the monocyte, that's fine. You can also dump charisma for more agility for action points. You can dump charisma for more intelligence, for more skill points, more carry weight for strength. The only skill that I actually recommend against raising is perception. And I forgot to put it on here, a better way to look at this is when you take into consideration the fact that you'll get your special stats raised by the implants. It's almost more like you can look at your stats like this, right? Maybe this is a better way to look at it. So because you get all your implants raised, you'll actually end up there permanently. And then from there, if you want to do a crit build, you can always go snag the Lucky Shades from the Legion. It's not very difficult to do that, but you don't need the extra 1 point for a crit chance, obviously. Another thing I should have mentioned at the beginning, sorry for putting it now, I'm assuming that you're kind of running through, like, the base Mojave with the DLC installed, but that you're not going to the DLC areas, like the Brotherhood Bunker, the Mojave Drive-In, the Canyon Wreckage, or the Northern Passage. So we'll assume that you can still get, like, the Dean's Electronics in the Brotherhood Bunker, or maybe that you enter the Canyon Wreckage to upgrade Eddie once, but that you don't necessarily do the entire DLC, right? your tag, because of the way that your perks are going to want to work out, you should probably tag Repair and Barter, at least. This is because Repair is a level 2 perk, Light Touch, for crit builds. And if you're new to the game, you should probably do a crit build. They're very overpowered, very strong. Perks at Light Touch, you want your Agility 6, Repair 45. This is why we had to raise Agility for the immediate perk. Basically, it gives you a plus 5% crit chance when wearing light armor, and your enemies suffer a negative 25% crit chance. It's a very good perk. At least I remember right. Maybe I remembered it wrong. But just for how early in the game that you can get it, it's pretty good. And it synergizes well with Travel Light and the other crit perks. And basically, you want to just stack crit on crit on crit perk. And it gets to the point to where you get some pretty ridiculous odds. So what are our next traits? Travel Light, you move atrociously slow in this game, so you really want to get your speed up. Hand Loader or Vigilant Recycler are Repair and Science of 70 respectively for the early game. These allow you to craft much more powerful, efficient ammo for the energy weapons, or make much more powerful bullet types for the guns. You'll actually feel the effects. Magnum shotgun rounds are incredibly powerful. Optimized ammo early on is really fuel efficient. It's very light. Sniper bullets in particular, you can get like 357 JFP, I think is what it's called, and it makes like cowboy repeaters, like devastating snipers. You'll really feel the effects of these perks if you plan on using guns or energy weapons. Next up is Pack Rat at level 8. Barter 70. I forgot to put that it actually needs intelligence 5. Pack Rat cuts the weight of all items that are 2 pounds or less in half. This is incredibly powerful. If you're playing on hardcore, you have to carry around water and food, some atomic cocktails or tobacco for sleep, doctor's bags for your limbs, ammos for your guns, maybe some crafting supplies you pick up. Some of your weapons, like frag grenades, are going to be really low weight. Maybe you even carry around like a hat that you wear all the time, and it's just going to be lighter. So Pack Rat is incredibly powerful. Finesse gives you extra 5%. It gives you an extra 5% chance to crit. Just slightly good. Now, the checks are Repair 45, Survival 45, or Intelligence of 4. Repair 70, Science 70, Barter 70. So how would you actually do this? These are very early on. So if you don't intend to sequence break the game very intently, you're going to need a stat dump. But this isn't too detrimental early on, and I'll explain. So, when we start the game here, if you really dilly-dally in Goodsprings, you can get up to about level 3. But then when you leave, you'll get the option to rebuild your character. We'll talk about this when we get to traits, but if you do skilled, you have plus 5 to all your skills. Maybe plus 10, depending on how you do it. With Good Natured, some other things, you can get your skills up really high already. There's a Chinese Sneak Ops, or is it Stealth Ops? I don't know what the book's called, but you can get one in the girls' sleep house in Goodsprings, the one that Trudy, Sunny, and the settlers share. So you've already got one skill book there. The game is going to nudge you to going down towards Prem, but if you actually explore the surrounding areas, this is Lone Wolf Radio, south to Goodsprings Source. It's guarded by some geckos. You can get a Wild Wasteland Survival Guide, or a Wasteland Survival Guide. For your survival, this is really good for your travel light, so that you only have to get your survival up to 43 or 42 or 41, early on. Survival isn't something you want to raise fast. You want to do it after you get your major skills to 100, so it's kind of good to not waste too many points on it. Going up around this area, you'll be able to pick up some really good loot. If you're doing an energy weapons build, you want to go to Goodsprings Cave to try and get something good out of the Bright Follower inside of the cave, right? Heading up towards Sloan, it's this little mining town. You'll be able to get a Dean's Electronic, which is a repair skill book. So even though you need repair at 45 at level 2, which you'll already be, it'll help for getting it to Hand Loader for 70. And jury rigging 90 later on. You'll also get a duck and cover here, which isn't very useful for anything on this, but still does, explosives 20 in case your explosives is somehow really low, right? It's nice to have. Then you can poke around Hidden Valley if you want. I can't zoom in much further, but in this little pit that my cursor is on, are some centaurs, and centaurs deal a lot of damage, but they're very easy to avoid. So early on, you can just kind of rush them, dodge their attacks, and kill them. They're just bullet sponges early on. If you do this, you can get the access code to enter the Hidden Valley Brotherhood Bunker. With a speech of 50 or some save scumming, you can beat the ranger that the Brotherhood will task you to deal with. And if you do this, you get an energy weapons book very early on, right here. Heading down, this is the NCRCF, the Powder Gangers. And as long as they aren't hostile, you can just walk in and grab the skill book if you want. It's also a good early vendor, but mostly you want to come in here for the Lion Congressional style, which will get your speech up higher, because speech is a very good stat. Moving down to Prim, you'll get Tales of a Junktown Jerky vendor inside of the Bison Steve, which is where you go for the main quest. And then heading down, when you go down here, you can leave through this side of town, and then it'll take you over to here, which is the Prospector's Den. This gives you an early lockpick book, which is very useful. If your lockpick is already high, you can come over here for a lockpick check of 50. It'll get you Grognok the Barbarian, which is melee weapons. If you're doing a melee build, but you're not, so it doesn't matter. The only reason this would matter is if you're doing Cowboy, and you want your melee weapons up faster, right? Guns and bullets are up down here. In, the Nevada Highway Patrol Station. Is actually not marked on this one, but where my cursor is the Mesquite Mountains Hotel. You can get a DC Journal of Medicine, so you can get a medicine skill book here. Another survival book here. A duck and cover here. A big book of science here. I pointed all those out because usually it takes me about getting to Nipton to reach about level 10, level 12. And that's where you'll need to kind of route a lot of the early skill books or dump to get these skills. But because of the overabundance of skill books in the early area that aren't too difficult to get, even if you don't pump into all your other stats, they'll all kind of raise at a good general rate anyways, just because of how many there are. You also need to keep in mind that because of the fact that you'll be getting all the implants, each time you raise one, so like intelligence will give you extra science, extra repair, extra medicine when you do it. So if you sequence break, which I'll explain, I guess now, to go to the New Vegas Medical Clinic, you can increase them during the early game when you save up money. The best way to get there without just abusing difficulty settings is to either take this path by Neil Shack, take a stealth boy, and pop up over Death Mountain, and then jump off the side down here towards the Ranger safe house, into Fiend territory and up there. Or, legitimately, you can come down here for the missing laser pistol quest from the Brotherhood, fight through Scorpion Gulch, which is possible. You'll have to use some cheesy stuff by hiding on the rock and hitting the opponents, or using like a Chance's knife early on. But it's entirely doable. Once you get past this, it'll take you near Helios. And if you follow the main road up, you can get Veronica, go to the New Vegas Medical Clinic, right? Alternatively, if you are willing to turn down the difficulty, you can just fight the Cazadors with the Mercenaries Grenade Rifle from the DLC. up through Makeshift Great Khan Camp or the Tribal Village, it doesn't matter. If you have a Stealth Boy, even without a Stealth Boy on very hard, if you jump down from Chance's Knife, run past the Cazadors, their chase won't let you, they won't chase you past this point. And you can usually escape with the Anti-Venom in Doc Mitchell's house. And then from there you can just beeline it, following the road. Fiends and Geckos either aren't fast or strong enough to put you down before you can make it to the clinic. It's pretty fine either way. But next we move on. After this, you want to start adding damage and accuracy perks. You know, run and gun, cowboy, grunt, and stay back, which is really powerful for shotguns. Fight the power. Fight the power is useful because there's like no playthrough where fight the power isn't useful unless you're playing for the NCR and you don't have Legion hit squads on you. Like, then it's kind of not worth it, but if you do have hit squads after you, fight the power is insanely powerful. But yeah, this is where you'll have to kind of, you know, at least think a little bit what your playstyle is. You're trying to be like a Black Widow, a cowboy, a grunt, a ninja, you know? But progressively, you want to care more about out of VATS, power and accuracy, and then going into like all your VATS perks. Better criticals is necessary. You really want to do a crit build. Weapon handling is really good, just because if you're doing ranged weapons, with a strength of 6 from the implant and weapon handling, you can use every gun effectively in the game. Aside from like what, the minigun, I think. But yeah. More fast perks. Laser Commander is really insane for laser builds. Then all your secondaries, so like toughness, increasing your life, increasing how much stim packs do, doubling chems, things like that, more VATS perks. Heavyweight and strong back are pretty good. Heavyweight is better if you plan on using like anti-material rifle, minigun, what's a good one, Gatling laser, missile launcher. If you want to use weapons like that, you'll notice heavyweight. Otherwise, it's better to pick something like strong back. And for your first build, I really recommend you get Implant GRX. I think that this is a waste of a perk now, but if you're getting used to the game, it's really nice to have this as a get-out-of-jail-free card. You'll need an endurance of 8, which, if you follow this build, you'll have. But Implant GRX is pretty good. So, all these perks are kind of get filled out by these. You know, if you just play like a cowboy that uses shotguns, pick cowboy, shotgun surgeon, and stay back, fight the power, living anatomy, you know, take them throughout all of them. Basically, as you play the game, figure out what you gravitate towards. Do you care more about the out of VATS abilities? Do you care more about accuracy? Do you care more about damage? Do you think it's more fun to be able to hold a bunch of different weapons and use them? Do you think it's more fun to optimize one gun? Take all that into consideration and start picking your perks more. Other notes, implants, take as needed for perks. So this is basically the idea that if you need 6 perception for better criticals, keep perception at 5 and put a point into endurance for the implant. You end up with more skills distributed, you end up with a better endurance and better health by as a result. You'll end up with more addiction resistance, you won't have to eat or drink as often or sleep. You're more resistant to poison, to fire, radiation. Actually, like, insane how good endurance is. For weapons, you just want to use weapons organically instead of trying to rush like really strong weapons. The example here is that a sniper starts the game with the Weather 10mm pistol, kill Dobson for his hunting rifle, make it to the Rat Slayer when you're on your way to Novak, get Patienza once you save up some money, Gobi campaign rifle when you say get your lockpick up, anti-material rifle, right? Pretty simple. Companions, you benefit really heavily from Eddie and Boone if you want to do ranged weapons. You'll be able to see your enemies from further away, and Boone will highlight them for you. So, pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Implants. You should take the implants for stats that need perks. So, like, your perception needs to be higher for better critical, so you should take perception quicker. Whereas luck, you don't need higher luck than 8 for anything, so luck should be kind of later. You know? Things like that. So yeah, this is like a cheat sheet for a ranged build, and we'll go to a generalized cheat sheet for a melee build. So this is for generally, right? I do have a specific one, but this is for general builds. Again, think of it closer like this, right? Charisma is lower because melee weapons are more special demanding on their positive aspects. But once you get used to New Vegas, you'll start dumping charisma anyways. It's very inconsequential. The only thing you need to tag this time is repair for melee weapons for light touch. You're honestly more free in what you tag this time, right? That early game progression that we went over, it's the same thing. You probably want to tag melee weapons and unarmed just because so many perks earlier on actually need fairly high weapon requirement. Unarmed is 70 at 12, 45, you know, all that. The perks are way more simplified, right? Because it's a way more direct playstyle. But yeah, same philosophy as last time. Space out weapon requirements by where you can get the skill books. This one allows for way more freedom, because you basically just need to get your melee and unarmed up pretty high, and then you can get your combat perks, and everything else falls into place. This build is not as dependent on VATS, because obviously it's a pretty simple thing to just run up and hit someone. And yeah, I forgot to go over that. The progression is the exact same, although to note, this is Goodspring Source. At Goodspring Source, you can get a shovel for free. When you leave Goodsprings, you should head north up these hills towards the tribal village. But there's an area to drop off, I think it's right here. And if you fall into that little pit, you can use the shovel to dig up Chance's Knife. Chance's Knife is a very low weight, low strength requirement, medium skill requirement of 50. Combat knife that has bonus critical hit chance and bonus critical hit damage. Early on, Chance's Knife just kind of obliterates for melee builds. It's insane. Like, I honestly think that until you start like fighting Legion Assassins, you honestly won't replace it with anything. I really don't think until you start fighting the Legion will you get anything comparable. Like over here, it's pretty nuts. But yeah, mostly the same. Piercing Strike, Unstoppable Force, Purifier, Ninja, right? All your melee-oriented abilities instead of ranged. I'm sorry, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Traits, however, traits are something that I did not go over yet. So we'll spend melee's time on traits. You only get to pick 2 in vanilla. And some of them are pure garbage because of this. For instance, Four Eyes negatively damages your perception stat permanently by 1 and gives you a temporary +2 whenever you're wearing glasses. So it takes away from the special stats you can distribute. It's objectively bad. If you don't have other traits to counteract it, it's worthless. I gotta get something to drink. My throat's drying up. I haven't done any of these in a long time. It's like killing my throat to talk. Okay, Build to Destroy. Bonus critical hit chance, weapon decays faster. Alright. All the benefits are self-explanatory, right? They're good. The question is the downside worth it? And how do you counteract the downside? For the downside to Build to Destroy, when you make it to Prim, if you pass a speech check of Repair 65, science, like 45 or 55, I can't remember, sorry. Or you use spare parts of 2 sensor modules, 3 scrap metal, and scrap electronics, you can get Eddie. From here, you can immediately go to the Canyon Wreckage, enter. It's a DLC area, but you don't have to fight anything. Get to the damaged Eyebot container, and this will upgrade Eddie. Eddie will then be able to repair your weapon once a day. This pretty much immediately counteracts it. On top of that, the materials for weapon repair kits are everywhere. It's not that hard. Once you make it to the Mojave Outpost, as long as you're not like a terrorist, what's his name? Major Knight will repair all your gear to 100 for some money. It's expensive for good items, but early on it's pretty doable because all your gear should be like kind of bad. If you plan to play as a male and you get the confirmed bachelor perk, which means you're gay, you can get your gear repaired for free at least once, maybe forever, I'm not sure. Once you get past here, usually I'm about level 10 by the time I make it to Nipton. By the time I make it to Novak, especially if I detour to Searchlight, you'll make it to about 14, 18, 20, kind of that range, depending on how long you take it. If you're mainly rushing it, though, you won't, but you can get jury rigging probably somewhere in this area, right? If you just dump into repair. There's a repair book here, here, and here. The only one you're missing is up at Nellis, so it's not that big of a deal. You'll also want to raise intelligence first out of all your implants, because of the fact that this will get you more skill points throughout the entire run. So you'll always do that first, so you also have the intelligence repair buff early on to your repair. It's not that hard to get. That will counteract the downside. Additionally, once you get strong enough to fight super mutants who have like light machine guns, heavy incinerators, miniguns, you can fight or sneak up Death Mountain here. And if you have a repair speech, a science skill of 60, you can peacefully get Rhonda and rescue Raoul. Otherwise, you'll have to fight Tabitha, a super mutant, with a super sledge. It's like a decent little boss fight. The Nightkin Sniper is honestly more dangerous, though. I've had way more problems with the Nightkin Sniper. Either way, it's a good little test of if your build is getting better, if you're stronger, to make it up to Death Mountain, Black Mountain, and rescue Raoul. Raoul can counteract it if you want it that way. If not, weapon repair kits, jury rigging, it's more than enough. Mr. Knight, Eddie, it's all enough. A fast shot. Fast shot is self-explanatory. Guns and energy weapons you fire 20% quicker. AP for your guns and energy weapons are 20% lower. Obviously, the adverse is the penalty, right? You're less accurate. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't think this is generally good. Just because you really want to hit your shots more than you want to fire them in rapid succession. It doesn't matter if you get an extra bullet every 7 bullets if half those bullets are missing, right? It's kind of the basic idea. But this one you'll actually have to directly counteract with perks. So I believe it actually says it in the description of Commando. The bonus is multiplicative, which means that if whatever. Basically, the moment you take Commando, if you use a Commando type weapon like a riot shotgun, AMR, what's another one? Tri-beam laser rifle, you'll literally negate the perk, the downside. But still, you would rather have Commando as a full buff, not getting rid of a negative one, right? So there's that. But yeah, that's essentially how you counteract Fast Shot. You can also take Steady, which is a chem, but it lasts very short and it's highly addictive, so it's not a good idea to do that for like a new build. But you can do that if you want. Fast Shot in general, I really don't, even to this point, know what really the big benefit is. But I don't know. Played it for 12 years. I don't think Fast Shot's that good. Four Eyes we said is bad. Good Natured increases speech, medicine, repair science, and skills. Decreases it. So obviously having all these higher is good, but if you have all these lower, it doesn't seem worth it. But if you do an explosives build, you don't care about your melee weapons, your unarmed energy weapons, or guns. So it's kind of like one skill you care about is lower and the rest of them are higher. So you would actually want to take this, but it's kind of outclassed by the combat perks. So heavy-handed for a melee build is really good because of the DLC if you plan to do Dead Money. If you don't, I actually advise against it. The downside is too negative without DLC. But yeah, pretty self-explanatory too. Kamikaze is good. The downside is just so ridiculously low, it's insane. Even immediately, this is just not even, you don't feel it. Loose cannon is not really good. You don't want to throw explosives closer to you. Small frame is good, right? I'm sorry for skimming over some of these, but some of them don't have very complex requirements to get over. Small frame, how do you get over this? You carry more doctor's bags and go to the doctor more often. It's like a little annoying, you know, but agility is good, so you might want it. Trigger discipline is good. AP cost is going to be higher, so just pump more into agility to make it better. Take Action Girl when it's available, which is a perk. It has literally no requirements. Agility 6, never mind, I was wrong. Yeah, Agility 6. And then you can basically negate Trigger Discipline. Wild Wasteland is purely cosmetic. The only thing is if you do an energy weapons build, don't take it. Otherwise, take it, because it's funny. Claustrophobia just isn't worth it. You can't control when you're indoors or outdoors for quests. Early Bird you can control, but it's just kind of annoying to control. It's not really worth it. Hoarder, again, you can control this, but it's not worth it to carry 160 pounds of equipment at all times. Hot-Blooded is plus 15% damage while below 50% health. This seems pretty worth it until you consider that -2 perception and agility means that your energy weapons and guns will lower. This can be counteracted by waiting until you're at 100 to read skill books, because of the fact that the game will actually register you at above 100 in a skill. So let's just ignore all that. Ignore all that. Let's say that you have a weapon skill of 100 and then Hot-Blooded activates. So you actually go to a guns of 96. So this means that something like the anti-material rifle will become drastically less accurate. It'll lose some amount of power. You never want this, obviously, right? How do you get around it? Assuming that you're not taking comprehension. Reading 2 skill books, the guns and bullets. Each give you +3. So 2 is 6. So if you wait until your skill in guns is 98, +3, +3, it'll read as 100, but hidden, it's actually at 104. Which means that when you lose 4, it'll appear as this. So you can actually use this to bypass the downside of Hot-Blooded entirely, outside of VATS, but it still reduces your agility, which will affect your VATS, which is a little unfortunate, but it's the entire idea. You're not supposed to be aiming as much when you're Hot-Blooded, right? This is kind of weird to look at, but that's basically how it works. Logan's Loophole is self-explanatory. If you think level 30 is high enough for whatever you want to do, and you like how chems work, you should take it. I don't think it's worth it. Losing 10 perks is kind of annoying, when you could literally take Chemist and Chem Resistant, and still have 8 more perks left, so I don't know. And Skilled. There is no downside. There's more than enough experience in the game. So, on these builds, I would say that on 90% of my runs, doing everything in the Mojave, so finding all these locations, you know, the hidden locations, which you'll have fun over here. Like the little hidden cove over here, the Scorpion Burrow, all these places, and then all the quests inside of them and all that. I'll make it to about level 42. And like, it was skilled, it's like maybe like 38, 36. You know, you're losing like 2 or 3 levels tops by taking skilled, and that's only if you actually play all that long. Most people won't, so completely understandable. Those are the generalized advices I have for melee or range builds. Take perks as needed, same as earlier. Yeah, the progression would be, you want to rush Chance's Knife, wait until you get a Power Fist if you want to do unarmed, Greased Lightning from the Brotherhood Bunker, the Ballistic Fist, and the 2-step goodbye, right? If you want to do unarmed, this would be your progression. You should just kind of find it as you go, pick up whatever weapons you want to use, have fun. Companions, you really want to have long-ranged companions like Boone and Lily, and Eddie. But you appreciate the perks from Arcade and Cast because of the fact that you're going to be a brawler, so you want to heal better. But I think this is about the best general advice I have. If you follow these builds and you have a decent luck stat, something that people don't know about is when you get to Prim, you have to do the quest My Kind of Town. At the end of this, either Myers, Prim Slim, or the NCR will take over the town. Don't know why I said it in that order, but if you wait 3 in-game days, and you come back to the Vicky and Vance Casino, Layla and a group of NCR deserters will be there. Talk her or fight her off. Wait 3 more days, and you can gamble for 2,000 caps and a full condition set of leather armor reinforced, which is worth 1,000 caps. You won't be able to sell it that well early game, but if you rush the Vegas Clinic, you can also discover the Gunrunner's Arsenal. The Gunrunner's Vendortron and sell stuff there. Even if you don't want to buy stuff there, it's just good to sell quicker. If you feel like sequence breaking some and heading up this area early, you can enter the Atomic Wrangler at any point and gamble for like 5,000 caps. You can gamble on the strip for, what is it, like 8,000 at Gamora, 10,000 at the tops, and like 15,000 at the Ultralux. You'll want to buy the Naughty Nightwear at Mick and Ralph's near the Freeside East entrance, in between the Gunrunners, the Crimson Caravan, and the Medical Clinic. If you buy the Naughty Nightwear, you can get your luck up to 9 until you can buy your luck implant. Getting onto the strip only requires 2,000 caps. It's pretty easy to do. You can also take the NCR monorail if you want to go do like one quest to make sure it works, you know, and then get your fame up. Other things to note is that certain areas of the game and certain companions are pretty easy to break. Veronica, you just have to talk to her and not be hostile towards the Brotherhood, basically, and she'll come with you. It's good to do this at any point. You can pretty much pick up Eddie at any point. If you sequence break for the Medical Clinic, you can go and get the invoice from McLafferty to Camp McCarran, and this gets you cast pretty early if you want to do the Veronica glitch. Otherwise, it's not really that worth it, but yeah. Arcade just needs a speech check or Follower's fame check. You can get him pretty early. Boone's quest is pretty simple. You can run down there and get it. A lot of the companions you can get very early. But yeah. What are other general start game tips? If you start with the DLC items, you're set on weapons. This guide pretty much showed you the early like 10 level progression that you need to do. Just dump into stats that you need for perks early on. The skill books you'll find throughout the natural game progression will get you kind of what you need. Like, if you get your speech to 50, you don't have to raise it again until Searchlight for a level 60 speech check. And then what's the next check that's above level 50? Camp Forlorn Hope has a speech check of 60 to get someone to turn themselves in, if you don't want spoilers, right? Because all this was early, this is kind of mid-game. There's that speech check. That's a speech check of 50. Yeah. Once you get your speech to 50, you can kind of leave it until you enter, like, the strip. You'll need your speech up for the strip, but you can also delay a lot of the strip, so it doesn't matter too much. In general, you can rush a lot of the game, take it at your own pace, and just kind of do whatever you feel like. I will say that just exploring everything you possibly can as you go along builds your character very nicely. But at the same time, a lot of newer people aren't going to enjoy getting used to the combat because it's kind of bad. Dying because they fight scorpions over here, you know. I don't blame them necessarily. I'll put these in the comments, but the cheat sheets is that, like, for laser weapons or energy weapons, you want to cap out with, like, MF Hyperbreeder, the YCS for sniping, Gatling laser, very specific progressions. I have the 42 marked off because you might not get that. Like, which traits I highly recommend for it. I'll make sure to put these in the comments, because it's not very fun to just go over and say, like, oh, this is exactly it, but, like, this is it for explosives. Would you guess you just get a bunch of explosives perks, right? But yeah, I'll put these in the comments if you want. Perks. In general, some perks I think break the game. Pack Rat, Travel Light, make the game way more convenient. All the critical hit perks break the game with a decent luck stat. Other than that, it's up to you. There are some perks I always like to take, like Bloody Mess, because I just love seeing it. Travel Light. Could have sworn there was one last thing I needed to talk about before we ended the video, because we talked about gambling, implants, early level progression, character builds, good weapons. What else was it? Mods. So mods. I'll definitely make sure to go down and link these below. But the mods I use are, I believe, the NVSE plugin. Sorry if I'm wrong. It's in loose files. Essentially, this just makes it so that the game crashes less. I don't know what it does specifically, but it works. There's the New Vegas 4GB patch. This makes the game aware that it can store up to 4GB of RAM, I think is what it is. Again, not tech illiterate, so if I mess it up, sorry, don't really care. Essentially, makes the game crash a lot less. If you're playing this on PC, you really need these two. I would actually say, hilariously enough, after playing the game for years on console, Xbox 360, that the game is actually more stable on 360 than it is trying to run it on a modern PC, which is really weird. But yeah. From there, I've only experimented with a few mods. Unlimited Companions, funny enough, is literally what it's called. Unlimited Traits. And Perk Every Level. These are the only mods that I've installed that I've played a full game with, are these 5. The reason why, Unlimited Companions, there's already a glitch in the game with Veronica. Basically, Veronica, 3 triggers. Veronica will talk to you. You say, not now. And then, sorry I'm scatterbrained, man. I'm really tired. I've stayed up for like 24 hours now. Not now, not now. What did you want to talk about? Better go alone. Repeat. And when you do this, you can essentially infinitely get Veronica To dismiss the active companion flag, you dismiss Veronica. You can go recruit Boone, dismiss Veronica, but Boone will remain while you can then recruit Veronica and have both of them at the same time. Unlimited Companions just speeds it up, and it allows you to have Rex and Eddie at the same time. So, I use an exploit that basically does the same thing. I don't see any reason not to play with this. Unlimited traits. The main reason I use unlimited traits is because even though some traits are easier to counteract than others, like skilled, they all do have a downside. And I think that the culmination of all the downsides makes the game more fun. I like being squishy from Kamikaze. I like being like fragile from Small Frame. I like my combat skills being lowered from Good Natured. I like firing slower from Trigger Discipline. I like my stuff breaking faster from Built to Destroy. It's kind of a nice passive detriment. And then on top of that, you get all the really powerful stuff that makes you like stronger early on. It's very fun. Perk every level. I tried to do this recently in a run with Logan's Loophole, but I really just don't like how it... I think you just level up too quickly in New Vegas. There's like... If you want to do all the quests, you'll hit level 30 way before you're done with the game. But at the same time, I don't like trying to wait until like level 50 for all my perks. Because once you hit the like mid-30s, you start leveling up way too slow. So I don't know. But yeah, those are the mods I use. I'll make sure to find those and link them in the description, as well as commenting all my specific builds for weapons. Here's a small little note. If you want to do explosives, you need to build around one of the grunt guns. So if you do explosives, you should probably be using a grenade rifle and Annabelle. Because of this, you'll take grunt, and you should use one of the grunt weapons. Let me find it. Yeah, you should use one of these weapons so that whenever you enter a vault, you don't just kill yourself immediately with explosives. But that's like, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Just be careful. Some of the stuff is buggy. It says assault carbine, right? Assault rifle, assault carbine. But it actually won't work with the GRA version, only the base game normal version. So, kind of sucks. 9mm SMG. You can use like Vance's SMG. Pretty good. But this is kind of a comprehensive overview, a generalized guide to the early game. If you just follow the dev's intended path, going from Goodsprings, maybe poking around Sloan, Hidden Valley, and CRCF, but always going to Prim no matter what, heading down to the outpost because of Prim, then circling down to Nipkin and Novak, maybe poking around Searchlight, poking around over here, and then ending up in Boulder City one way or the other before you go to the Strip. This is a pretty natural progression. From there, you go over to Jacobstown, Red Rock, Bitter Springs, or Nellis, poke around Freeside, West Side, Outer Vegas, right? That's the progression you're going to take. Once you're strong enough, cycle back around to those early game areas that killed you. The fastest I've ever gotten through Quarry Junction was, I think, like level 14 or something, with a Riot shotgun build. But yeah. This was the music, and yeah. New Vegas, just kind of as a aside or whatever. New Vegas, I don't think is ever gonna age beyond the point of being replayable. It looks like shit, you know. I'm not gonna dance around it. It looks ugly. It runs horribly. I mean, for God's sake, I said you got a patch to make it work on modern PCs, right? I don't think it's perfect, but I do think that everything good about New Vegas is so good that it's worth dealing with all the bad. So, I hope that being handed builds and given kind of the early game poke around of what to do maybe helps like one person out there play this game that they wouldn't have otherwise played. This is literally my favorite game of all time. I know I'm a Pokemon channel, or at least I was, but literally nothing will ever top New Vegas to me. It's something incredibly special. I've played through like every major faction. I've done all the DLC. I've done all kinds of challenge runs. I played this game for 10 years on the 360, man. Like, I don't... Your game has got to be pretty good to do that. I've literally bought new Xbox 360 main boxes just so that I could keep playing New Vegas. New Vegas is that kind of game. But yeah, every year around January, December, they start posting those videos of like, a New Vegas in 2022 start guide. So yeah, here's mine. I don't believe in all that bullshit about doing the Good Springs glitch for infinite XP. I think that ruins the experience. I don't know. What are some last pieces of wisdom? If you want to get the Lucky Shades for a crit build without being in the Legion, there's an exploit with Decanus Severus's dialogue where it'll be easier to write it out. So you go... what is it? Do you see much action? Disarm landmines. Explosives 50. Repeat. You can cycle through his dialogue infinitely, and as long as you have 50 experience, you can get your fame all the way from neutral to idolized just by passing the speech check over and over, because it gives you Caesar's Legion fame. This is one of the more helpful exploits. Kind of bad to put it at the very end, but it's an exploit you can do, because a lot of people like the Lucky Shades and don't just want to use console commands. I've just started using them. I'm thinking about looking into a mod that like puts them somewhere else in the world, because I don't like playing with the Legion, but yeah. I hope I get one person into this game. I really hope I do. Surprisingly, my New Vegas videos have actually been doing extremely well. I have no idea why, but if you're here because of all of those, thank you. My posting schedule is irregular, but I'm probably going to make a solo vid about it. Essentially, I'm in a situation where I don't have control over when I can record, so I just kind of have to jump at the chance, like today. So, but yeah, if you watched all this, thank you for your time. I hope you learned something. I hope you got interested to do a run. If you have any better starting tips, if you think I missed something, comment below. I want people to see it. I know that's begging for algorithm and all that, but like genuinely, if there's anything you can think of that I left out that's good for the starting, don't tell me about something that happens over a Nellis or a Jacobstown speech glitch, right? Don't tell me about, oh, the C-57 Avenger is here, Don't put shit like that. Put like early game Novak, Boulder City, Scorpion Gulch up to the Metal Clinic, like that type of stuff. If you have any builds that you think are good for new people, let me know. But yeah, that'll be the whole video. If you actually stuck around again, thank you, and I hope you have a good day. This is what my real voice sounds like.